So I had a conversation with a client, and this is part of a large organization that I'm working for. And one of the senior managers took me to the side and said, I want to talk. And we started chatting, and she said, look, I have nothing to complain about. Everything's going great. She's a very successful manager. She's well respected within the organization. She's financially, she's very successful. She has, checked all the boxes. And she said, but I don't know why I'm just not happy. And she said, maybe it's because I'm stressed because, I am very busy, with, family and friends and work, but I don't think, because I do take time for recovery. And, I do have a day where I switch off all communication, because I taught them about, stress is not the problem. The problem is lack of recovery. She says, I'm doing those things. Why aren't I happy? So we started to chat, and I said, tell me about your typical day. And she told me, and then suddenly dawned on me, and I said, tell me, are you, do you do any exercise? And she said, no, that I don't have time for that, unfortunately. But other than that, I do everything. I said, so you don't exercise at all? So she said, no, when we go on vacation, we go on walks and stuff, but during the week, I just don't have time to do it. I said, okay, I think we've identified the culprit, the responsible party: exercise. Why? And I started thinking, as we were talking, I went back to my studies of organizational behavior, where we studied about the theories of Hertzberg. Hertzberg, let me write it down. Hertzberg, that's Herzberg. Here it is. Hertzberg. And Hertzberg's theory, his idea, is around motivators in the workplace. And he talks about hygiene factors. Again, let me write this down again, because you can look it up by yourself after. This is interesting for all those you interested in the organization, but also, as you will see in a minute, also those of you interested in individual change. So Hertzberg hygiene factors, what are they? There are certain elements within the organization that do not make employees happy, but their absence makes employees unhappy. Let me repeat this. The things that he calls hygiene factors in and of themselves do not contribute to employees' happiness or well-being. But without these factors, employees will be unhappy. In other words, they affect employees' well-being negatively, not positively, but negatively if they're absent. And let me give you the most common example. Pay, money. Money does not make employees happy. You can pay someone $1 million, and initially they'll be very happy. But after, a month or maybe 6 months, that will not make them happy, because we get used to it. We all can think, your first paycheck that you ever got. I remember the first $1,000. My first paying job that I got was about $1,000 a month. I can't tell you how happy I was. Well, I can, because you've probably experienced it. Because I could go and buy my own, I bought a fax machine. That was the first thing that I bought, because I could communicate with my parents who were living in another country. Wow, what excitement. Today, if I get an extra $1,000, yeah, of course, it's nice, but that will not give me happiness. Initially, yes, but after a while, we adapt. So money does not provide people happiness beyond basic needs. However, if you take away money or if you pay people less than they think they deserve, that will make them unhappy. So that's a hygiene factor. It doesn't contribute to happiness, but its absence will create unhappiness. So that's one factor. Another factor is job security. You know, once I have job security, I don't think about it. You know, I go to work in the morning, I do my thing. But if you take job security away, that of course will affect unhappiness. That will impact my well-being if it's taken away. And suddenly I don't, well, am I going to be fired? Am I going to still be working next month? Then I'm going to be thinking about this all the time, and it's going to affect me negatively. But once job security is there, I get used to it. I adapt to it very quickly, and it doesn't affect us at all. So this is what Hertzberg called hygiene factors. And I think, as I was speaking with this manager, I think that exercise can be looked at as sort of a hygiene factor. You know, it's not that every time I go out for a run, I'm so happy and it's, no, yeah, sometimes, yeah, I experience a runner's high, but you know, that's temporary. But if you take exercise away from my life and I don't exercise anymore, that's really going to affect my well-being levels. So when it's there, basically things are at this level. Okay. When it's not there, I suffer. One of the sentences that I talk about, that I repeat, whether it's in our lectures or in webinars sometimes, is that exercising is not like taking an antidepressant, but rather not exercising is like taking a depressant. And that in many ways defines what a hygiene factor is. Not exercising is like taking a depressant. We become less happy. We don't, and when we exercise, we simply go back to our regular level, and then we can build on that. Now, how do we build on that? By spending time with our loved ones, by doing the gratitude exercise, by doing something that is meaningful to us. These are all factors that can increase our happiness. But if we don't have the basics, the hygiene factors, you know, it's very difficult to be happy at work, even if you're doing something very meaningful, if it doesn't provide for your livelihood, or if you think you may be fired tomorrow. But if you have those hygiene factors, if you have job security, if you have your basic needs met and you think you're compensated fairly, okay, that's when I can think about finding meaning at work. This is when I can think about cultivating healthy relationships at work, and so on. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you don't have the basics, safety, security, it's very difficult to enjoy the higher levels on the hierarchy. And this is what I explained to that lady, to the manager. I said to her, a hygiene factor for you is exercise. That has to be basic, 3 times a week at least. Or if you can't do it, do MVIs, minimum viable interventions, of moving throughout the day, go up and down the stairs. You know, find time for, you know, sit-ups during the day or whatever, but you have to move it, because if you don't have those basics, all the wonderful things in your life will not have the impact that they can have, because you're still struggling down here because you're not exercising, you're not getting the basics. So think about hygiene factors. Now that brought up another point for me when I explained it to her, the interconnectedness of all things, because I thought about something that I learned in organizational behavior. on teams, on a business, and found its applications and implications for the individual, because everything is interconnected. And what we learn in philosophy is relevant to how we raise our children, and what we learn about child rearing is relevant to art. Everything is interconnected, and this is why we're learning a holistic model of happiness as part of our learning, as opposed to just a specific and focused and narrow model of happiness. Okay, so that's my sharing for today. I'd love to hear your questions or comments as always.